Go Tell Mom. I'm Dianna Kelly, and I've been momming for several decades, including tending my fur babies, kids I gave birth to, kids I mentored as a broadcaster and college instructor, my kids' friends, and my friends. I'm not a psychologist or doctor, but I do know how to dig up advice from those who are, and that's what I'll share with you. If you have something to share with me, remark, comment, question, please comment below. It's not always easy to balance your career and your family when you go work outside the home. To make that work-family balance kick in, you need to set clear boundaries to separate professional and personal time. You must define and prioritize your core values and build a strong support system. Start out by defining your priorities. Southfield Pediatrics suggests you identify what truly matters to you and your family, such as quality time with children, career goals, or personal well-being, or maybe all three. My dad worked for a defense company, but he was an artist at heart, and he liked day trips when we were kids. We'd be sitting at the kitchen table on a Saturday morning, and he'd say, "Let's go to Maine." It was his favorite painting subject, and it was a 90-minute drive from where we lived. He and Mom loved the coast, and we kids were fans of picking up seashells and dancing in the waves, so it was a relatively cheap adventure for us, especially since Mom packed PB&J's sandwiches and, of course, Dad's favorite Fritos and Pepsi. Some folks would say sports were their big thing, with everyone at practices and games throughout the week. If everyone's on board with that, it can really bond the family and create some great memories, as long as you're not expected to be on call for work. When my kids were doing team sports, it tended to be stressful, especially since I was doing the carting back and forth and heading back to work in between. I didn't have a lot of balance with work and family life back then. But balance isn't just about family activities done in lockstep. Jennifer Harity from Indeed says it's important to make time for hobbies to relieve stress, whether it's 20 minutes to read a book or an hour-long bike ride after work. Even a few minutes of personal time can improve focus and anxiety. So when the kids were doing homework and I was actually home, I'd grab a spade and hit the garden and do some planting or trimming or digging. Christina Stechkel from Global Communications says achieving and maintaining a balance between work and family life requires time and dedication. You may sometimes commit more time to one thing than the other, but the goal is to find a healthy balance that works best for you. I hadn't thought much about this, but she suggests limiting your non-essential activities. Checking your personal email, scrolling through social media or the internet. How many times have you been sucked down a TikTok rabbit hole? This can cost you time that can be spent on something that frees up your time to give you that balance, like throwing a load of laundry in the washer so you're not doing laundry after the game. Get rid of the electronic leash. When everyone's home, including you, shut off the phone. It's essential to put boundaries in place on your availability after hours and leave work at the office. Try to avoid checking work emails while you're at home and only respond to anything that can't wait until the next day. I know some folks will listen to any ping of their phone when they're home and immediately reply to any question from work. My phone is on vibrate most of the time, and I don't allow pings to puncture my time at home. I need my alone time to recharge my batteries so I can perform at my best at work. WebMD.com says if you find yourself working too much, it can lead to overwhelming exhaustion. That can give you limited tolerance, otherwise known as a short fuse. It can also lead to poor sleep and lost time with family and friends. You might feel emotionally distanced from your kids or think you're a poor or an ineffective spouse or parent. It circles back to your priorities and your goals. Take a step back to think about how you're spending your time and whether your goals are manageable. You may feel happier when you set a priority and get things done. For me, I always feel better when I make a list and check things off. My kids occasionally see it on the fridge when they visit and they laugh because some of those items don't seem to be big, while others are more like month-long tasks. They don't understand just how important it is to me to see a check mark next to that small item. It makes me feel like I'm making progress on my list of priorities. WebMD has a list of how to switch from work mode to family mode. It includes winding down after work by listening to the radio or a podcast or reading a book. Try working out after work to relieve stress. Try doing a mindfulness exercise in your car before going to work and when you return home. Make a hands-free phone call to a loved one on the way and catch up with them and leave work behind. Set a routine like changing your clothes when you get home. Hey, it worked for Mr. Rogers. My friend Beverly swears by that. Shedding the work togs, taking a few deep breaths, and bringing your attention back to the present. Me, I take my dogs for a walk as soon as I dump my work bag and purse. Activities like exercise, listening to music, or reading help you transition from work to home. You know, there's no one-size-fits-all solution to work-life balance, so find one that fits your unique situation. My partner, colleague, and friend, Sheri Waltz.
Hello.
And it's so nice to get back on Go Tell Mom again. Okay, we've been both juggling a lot of stuff between work and being a parent, you know, because it never goes away, even when your kids are grown. So how do you think is the best way to juggle work and life?
It's hard.
Really?
No matter what.
I know.
No matter what. Every stage has been different and difficult for different reasons. Mm-hmm. But it has definitely be something that you have to value it and want to do it. So it doesn't, at least in my life, it has not happened organically, naturally. Like I had to decide I wanted that balance and then make it happen.
See, I'm always like, oh, sure, I can take this on. You know me. I'll take that on. Yeah, I can do that. And then all of a sudden, I'm going through like this huge anxiety right when, and it always seems everything hits at once.
Yes.
You know, and there isn't that balance there that I'd like all the time. But I notice if I plan things out a little bit and I've got some idea of what my schedule is, I panic less. I mean, do you feel the same?
Well, I'm a
You're
planner.
a planner
I'm
from
a
the get-go. Yes, I know.
So I plan everything.
Yeah.
So yes, for me personally, that makes it a lot easier for me to be able to say no and to feel okay about it.
Yeah.
Like right now, it's not technically work life, but I've been doing cookie decorating, and so
I love your cookie. Your cookie decorations are the best. I have
but
to
I'm
tell
doing
you.
it for fun, so it's a hobby. It's not what I want, and so I have a couple of my friends that have asked me to make something for special occasions, and I always say no because then that changes it, right? And so it's like I want to be able to decorate on my time. I want it to be relaxing. I don't want it to be another to-do list item.
Yeah.
And I know that's hard, and they're always like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "No, I'm not doing it for that." I've done that before. I've done a lot of my hobbies have turned into semi trying to make money off of them. I wouldn't say a job, but semi trying to make some money, and it just changes it a lot. And now that I'm older, I realize the value of my peace.
Yes.
The inner peace that I have is not worth whatever the other thing is.
Yeah.
And I'm more confident to say no. I'm okay with it. I wasn't that way especially when the kids were younger. I was a yes to everything.
I know. I was too. It's like, oh, sure, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And I was always the one that was figuring out how to keep all the balls up in the air.
Yeah.
Whereas my spouse was like, well, I got work to do over here.
Yes.
And part of that is my generation was like that.
Yes.
I think today's couples are a little bit more balanced when it comes to that, or trying to get more balanced when it comes to that.
I think so. I think it's just, it's just what's socially acceptable, right? And I think it is more socially acceptable for there to be a more split distribution of work. I think also from our generation, we're coming off of most of our parents didn't work. Well, our parents, most of the fathers worked, and then most of the mothers maybe had some type of job, but they still primarily did the home. And I think we saw that, and we tried to emulate it a little bit. Although we had to make some concessions. I think that our children, at least I see it with my own kids, they see that it wasn't a fair distribution of work, especially when we were coming from a two-family, full-time employed, working, adults. And they saw that, and I think they don't want to do that now. So I think, it just changes. It takes a little bit of time.
Do you think that has something to do with why they're saying fewer Gen Zers and millennials want kids?
I do. I think that they see the strain of trying to create work-life balance, and I don't mean to be mean, but they see the upside in children. I don't think they see that as a benefit, and they just see it as a burden.
See, my daughter is definitely like that. Yeah. I mean, she has no interest in children because she doesn't think whoever she marries, if she marries, is going to be an equal partner when it comes to raising the kids, because that's not what she grew up with, even though we were a two-income family.
Yes.
I
think they see that now, and they're concerned, but they're also waiting a lot longer so that maybe they'll be a little bit more financially stable, and maybe that would make a difference. So maybe they'll just be older parents balance, which is something to be said.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I was going to say, we had our kids like right in the middle. I was 28, and of course we had friends that had them much earlier, and we had friends that had them much later, and different dynamic completely. But I don't think it was
way into my 30s before I had kids.
Yeah.
So by then we did have a little bit of financial security, but not a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, kids drain that anyway.
Yeah, I know. Well, although my daughter's a planner. You would be proud of her. She has like X amount of dollars goes into savings, X amount into health. She has all these little accounts that she has money dropping into, and then she lives on the rest. And I think that's great, but she worries a lot because she's set up these big standards for herself in terms of what she wants her money to do, and there's not always enough money to do that.
Well, and especially not in today's economy with inflation and everything else. That money just doesn't go as far,
Nope.
and it's definitely... definitely difficult.
Yeah.
Which I think, kind of tying it back to like the work life, I think sometimes at least I feel like my generation, especially my own children, I'll call them and say, well, what are you doing this weekend?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, we're not doing anything. And I'm like, well, why aren't you doing something? And they're like, oh, well, because we don't want to spend the money on that. And so I really feel like with my own kids, they're just going to work
Right.
to make an income to pay for their car and their house and their food.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like there needs to be balance. I'm not saying you need to go out and party all weekend and spend hundreds of dollars, but there are a lot of things to do for free. There are a lot of things that you can do, even just taking a hike, going for a walk.
Exactly.
Like, you need to find that balance. Because
I will say Janina does that. She will do that. And she looks for free stuff. I mean, she'll have friends that are performing somewhere, and she'll go to a concert where they are, and she'll go by herself. I mean, she doesn't necessarily drag people with her.
Right.
And she's spending less money that way, which I think is pretty clever on her part. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've got to have that balance. You can't just be work, and then sit home and couch potato, because then you're not going to appreciate the time that's your free time.
And that's the commodity you can never get back.
Exactly.
That time just doesn't come back. So I think my one daughter does a better job. They try to plan things. She has a slightly more stressful current life because she's going for a PhD.
Yeah.
So I think she really finds it valuable to decompress.
Mm-hmm.
And so they try to do maybe not something every weekend, but like every other weekend.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I just need to get away from the stress of what I'm doing right now. And I think that's important. I think that's good for her to recognize that.
Yeah. Well, I think also that if you're in school, you're used to scheduling things.
Yes.
And so it just makes sense that, I look at the calendars that we come up with every semester, and there are slots, and you have to figure out what you're putting in those slots. Yeah. And some of that's got to be free time.
It has to be.
It absolutely has to be. I've been doing writing, and that's almost been, it's almost been like a second job for me, because I'm hoping to get it monetized at some point.
Yeah.
But there are times that you just need to take a walk in the park. You need to maybe just go for a drive somewhere that you've never been before. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just means that you're spending time on you. You're devoting time to yourself. Even if it's like, I love going to antique stores. Even if I'm not buying, I love window shopping. And people will say, well, what are you shopping for? And I'm nothing. Peace of mind. I'm not planning. I can be perfectly happy walking out of the store without a purchase.
Yeah.
So, but it's just, I'm meeting people and having conversations and doing the stuff that you do when you get out in the public.
Yes.
Without being in front of a class or
on your phone. Because that's my big thing is being on TikTok too much. And
Yeah.
I'll try to remind myself that is not quality alone time.
Nope.
It is not what we're talking about when we're talking about creating that inner peace. And I'm not saying that I'm going to stop doing it. I'm still going to do it, but I still really try to say that's not what I mean.
Yeah.
It's something else, like for me it's going for a walk or going to the gym, or if I'm doing something with my husband, then we'll try to do something, but on a regular basis, I try to just decompress.
I do the dog walk twice a day,
Yes.
and it's funny because a lot of times it's like, I don't feel like it, but it's like, no, I have to take them. I really have to take them. So, I'm walking, but as I'm halfway there, I'm feeling good.
Yes.
And I'm outdoors, it's fresh air. They love it. They're dragging me a lot of times,
Yes.
which means I'm going at a faster pace because I have a new dog. Because my old one passed away a couple of months ago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was going on 14.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he was in rough shape when I first got him. I mean, his back legs weren't working all that well.
Okay.
And it got to the point where 2 months before he passed, and this happened with my other senior dog before him, it was, he didn't want to go for walks.
Yes.
And he was, he would just sit like, nope, not doing this.
Their body just gives out on that. I guess just like people, right? Just like people. But yeah, it's hard. What kind of dog did you get?
I got a Yorkie Poo. I got him at the Sumner County Humane Society, and they were great there. But he's a year younger than the other one.
Okay.
My Chorky, Chihuahua Yorkie. They get jealous of each other, but when it's not a question of who gets mom's lap, when it's like, okay, I'm leaning on this side, you're leaning on the other, even when they'll sleep in the same bed with me, there's no fight. The fight comes to when mommy's throwing the toy or when one of them's sitting in mommy's lap.
That's how our dogs were. They were definitely jealous of each other most of the time. So, yeah.
Well, they're not. They're okay when they're walking, or one of them will be looking at the window like, and the other one's like, what's going on over there? And goes running, for wherever they're going to. And there they are. They're good. They're good buddies, And
that's nice, but I think that definitely helps. Again, it gives you some balance because even though it's prescribed, like I remember when we had the dogs when they were old, I have to go home. I have to be home by this time.
Yep.
I have to let the dogs out.
Yep.
But then it would, even though it was a duty and it was a responsibility, then I was there. Then I got to, then I was I couldn't say yes to a whole bunch of stuff because I knew I had to be home.
Yep.
Because I was the one that had to let them out.
Yep.
And then it helped me. It forced me to go home.
Yeah.
Because I was definitely one that would just, I'll just stay. I'll just do one more thing. I'll grade one more speech. I'll do whatever.
I'm like that too.
Yep. And it would be and so that was really beneficial. The last 2 years of their life where I just was no, my primary responsibility is a caregiver for them.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I have to be home and I have to, assist them.
Yeah.
Because those senior dogs, they require a lot of work, a lot of effort.
Yeah, but they're so lovable. They're so sweet. And this one looks like, me, I love my superhero movies and stuff. So if you've seen Superman, this is like a mini version of Crypto. And he acts like it too. Like he jumps on you and he's like, hey, I want to do this. Or, bring me the toy. And then he drops it in your lap and he gives you this grin, this doggy grin. And it's so hard to resist. Like, of course you're going to play with me. Of course you're going to throw this. And then I get this other at my elbow there because the other one doesn't want mom to be playing with this one because that's what they always did, And then he'll turn around and go grab his toy and drop it at my feet. Okay, you're supposed to be throwing this. And so I've gotten to the point where I'm pretty good at grabbing one and throwing it and then grabbing the other while the other one's running back and throwing that one. So I'm getting pretty good arm strength that way. My favorite kind of exercise.
You're ambidextrous.
Yeah, really. But again, you have to come up with a balance in your life between work and play,
yes.
And responsibilities.
Yes.
And when you're a parent, you've got that kid factor in there. It's like somebody's got a game or a play.
Yes.
Or music lessons. Or they've got to go walking or jogging or something as a class assignment.
I think that was the hardest phase when they had so many activities.
Yeah.
And of course I was the chauffeur.
Right.
That was the hard time.
Likewise.
Because it was, you had to take them and do that. And I got pretty good. I was doing crochet at the time and I would drop them off somewhere and I would go in my car and I would crochet different things, or I would read a book and I would try to, even though I didn't have enough time to get home and get there and get back, I just tried to find that hour where I could do something for myself.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was definitely, again, a plan, a thought, thought. Sometimes
you can't just wing it.
No.
You really can't.
No.
And I think in a way that's healthier because then you appreciate the time you've got for something like that. that when I've got my alone time or my think time or my just zoning out, and I do zone out in front. TikTok's your weakness. Netflix tends to be mine. So, I mean, I'm Netflixing and watching Wednesday or I'm watching Thursday Murder Club or something like that, That's my chill time, but I've got a dog on one side and a dog on the other side watching it with me. And they just kind of look at like, okay, yeah, Mom, this is our job. This is our job, is keeping you balanced. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it is.
Good. I wish when the kids were younger, I did a better job of finding time outside of the home for me. And which I see, of course, a lot of people on TikTok that have kids now, and they'll make comments like, Monday night I go to painting class, or Thursday night I go with the girls and do this. I wish that was more of a thing when I had the
Likewise.
kids. I think that would have been really beneficial to have some type of standing arrangement where you did something on a certain day, and then your spouse, significant other, did something on a certain day for them.
Exactly.
And did that more. That wasn't a thing in our family, and so I always had to carve out me time, like I said, like when I was driving the kids somewhere or whatever that looked like. And that would be one thing I wish I would have changed, would have done that. Yeah.
I mean, for me, we'd always be having radio events, and dang, if they weren't like last minute, oh, we need you here, or you've got to be there. And it didn't matter if I had planned something in my head, because that was really the only place I could plan things. But it always seemed like something professional was interfering, and I would try to balance it with the kids in that I would take the half-hour break to go dashing out to wherever they needed to be picked up and drop them off at home when they were in their teens especially, and then head back to work and I'd be working till 8 o'clock at night, and then you got no mean time. Then it's, okay, did you guys eat yet? Yeah. And it wasn't always the best balance. It wasn't a balance a lot of times.
No. But I think we have to give ourselves grace, because I think, again, I think that things come in seasons and there are moments. I think what you have to watch and be careful of is for it to become the habit, the norm, and even like here, like when I have long days here, like I try to just get away from my desk. Yeah. And I just go for a walk. I walk the loop of the campus, and
which
I'm like
is a
back
great
in.
Loop. It's what, 1.3 miles or something
like
that?
I don't know. I never miled it out, but I just need something. I need that break, because I know that by the time I get home, it'll be time for dinner. Yep. And then it's time for TikTok, and then it's time for bed. And so like I had to figure that out. I got to try to balance it. And so I think that, I don't think it has to be huge. I don't think it has to be this big thing. Yeah. But I think you have to prioritize it in whatever way makes sense for you. Whether that's getting up a little earlier, like if you're a coffee drinker and drinking your coffee before you get the kids up. Yep. Like I'm not, but something. See,
I'm used to getting up early. Yeah. And to be able to do that, I mean, this morning the dogs were walking at 5:30, which I knew I was going to have a long day. So it was like, okay, I'm going to get to work early, have a 8 o'clock class to teach, and I need to prep on this, and this. And I can either do it now when I'm exhausted and it's going to take me twice as long, or I can do it first thing in the morning when all the synapses are firing, which is what I do eventually. Right. Yeah, you've got to figure out timing.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's okay to say it's not working. I'm a real proponent of having honest conversations with your significant other who's ever helping you, especially when it comes to raising kids, to say this isn't working, like to have pre-planned. Like, of course, around New Year's is always good because we always make those resolutions, but anytime, it could be at any point in the year where you guys set a time to sit down and talk about how you're feeling and what stress is like, and how you're managing the everyday.
And what your priorities are.
Yeah, and how they might shift, because things change and we can't always operate the same way. And I just think that it's smart if you get in the habit of making that part of your everyday dialogue with somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's one way of keeping your sanity, for one thing. Yeah. But it's also going to make you less likely to be run down or cranky, or, and you can be your best self with the people that need your time.
Yes.
I'm Dianna Kelly, and she's Sheri Waltz, and this is Go Tell Mom. Thanks for sharing this episode of Go Tell Mom with us, Dianna Kelly and Sheri Waltz. We focus on the kind of things you might share with your mom, or tell about your mom, or maybe not. If you have something you'd like to share or comment on, please click on our comment section. See you next time with Go Tell Mom.